Welcome to CloverDX Designer Examples. This is Example 3, Job Flow. This example is a step up in complexity from Examples 1 and 2. So if you haven't already, I would recommend watching those videos first. Previously, we looked at graphs, and today we're going to look at a job flow. Job flow is one layer higher than a graph in what we call the orchestration layer. This is where we can control how and when graphs run, as well as use the output of one graph to run another graph. This job flow takes all the files from a folder, checks a configuration file to know which graphs to run on which files, runs the appropriate graphs, and finally gets the statistics for the graph runs. Let's take a look at it in more detail. This job flow begins by reading all the files in a directory, which we'll give it when we run it. We feed the directory here via a parameter, which could either be entered manually or possibly fed from an input edge, but here we'll go with what we've set as a default. Then the job flow will read all the files in the directory, filter out any subdirectories, and then use a map component to extract the client names from the file names. Next, it reads a spreadsheet file, which serves as a configuration file. This tells the job flow what graphs to run with which files. With this setup, we can change the job flow's behavior dynamically without having to go into the Clover Designer each time. Then we merge the data of our files with the data from our configuration and send that to the execute graph component. It looks like this, with the client, file name, which graph to run, and enabled or not. If there are any problems in our merge, it'll go to our fail component and the job flow will fail. The fail is set for a higher phase because we want to process what files we can and get their data before ultimately failing the job flow. It'll do everything in one phase before moving to the next. I like to leave gaps in case I need to add a phase between them later. Now the execute graph component will run different graphs for each file according to our processes field. Here's one of those graphs. It'll run some process on the appropriate file. Feel free to explore these graphs and see how they work. Then the graph will send its data back up to our orchestration layer. We'll see the data from those graphs, which looks like this, with the run ID, the record count, the output record count, what the status was, and then we'll bring that to an aggregation component, which combines how many files did we process, how many clients, the total input records and total output records, just some basic statistics for our job flow. And then finally, using a set job output component, we will set those statistics so that we can see them right from the console in the logs. So we can see how many clients were processed, how many files were processed, etc. And you'd be able to see this directly from the server page to just check your statistics on your job flows. So that's the job flow exercise. I hope you found this useful.